So I love to hear from everybody. Oh, hello, everybody. Wine enthusiasts and lovers of the rich and diverse world of Mexican wines. My name is Sandra Orellana. I'm an accountant, and I'm here with Martha, Edna, and Cynthia. It is my pleasure to introduce a remarkable individual who has poured her heart and soul into bringing the splendor of Mexican wines to the forefront. Joining us today is the passionate author of captivating book, Wines of Mexico, a guide to fall in love with Mexican wines, the one and only Martha Cisneros Paja. Hello, Martha. How are you?
Hi, Sandra. Thank you very much for having me. I am very good, very happy to be to be here with you and with some of my good friends.
We're excited to talk about your book. What inspired you to write a book, especially about Mexican wines, and what is your personal connection and passion for the Mexican wine?
Well, I am Mexican, born and raised. I am an immigrant. I live in New York, and I have been living here for the past 10 years. And throughout my life, I discovered the world of wine, thanks to, traveling and living abroad, particularly when I lived in Spain.
Okay.
I discovered the culture of wine, and that was kind of like a ray of light into my life.
That's
Because
awesome.
in Mexico, you don't drink wine, or at least
Oh,
my
yeah.
family, they didn't drink, a lot of wine. They were
Right.
drinking beer, or like, since we were living close to Texas, like sometimes boxed wine, but it was not kind of like the best quality wine. So
Right.
living in Spain, I discovered the culture around wine, and I was really happy, and I got immersed into it because right there I discovered that the wine was just not like a liquid in a glass. It was kind of like the culture behind it, the passion of the people growing grapes,
Mm,
the story of the people, families, transmitting through
right.
generations all these winemaking stories and all that. So it was very intriguing to me. The world of wine also includes different I'll say arts, like it's the art of winemaking, the art of crafting a product, of designing a label, sustainability, geography. So it's a lot. So I felt in
Yes.
love. Yeah, I felt in love with it. And then being Mexican, I reflected on
I've never heard of Mexican. So when I
right.
saw it, I was like Mexican wine, and I was curious. Um, why Mexican wine? Is there a difference?
Yes, of course. Um, so as as I say, I reflected on why no one is talking about Mexican wines, and do they exist? I didn't even know that Mexican wines existed. Like, at some point in my life, I was like, do they exist? And then I started
Right.
discovering that yes, of course they exist. I remember now, like going back into my life, I remember that when I was 15, I visited a winery, and the name of the winery is Casa
Mm,
Madero. And Casa Madero was the first winery in the Americas. And I was like, oh my God, like, I never pay attention into that. Casa
that is
Madero is
interesting.
exactly is the first winery in the Americas. And since then, like I reflected and I rediscovered that Mexican wine has a long history, since the Spanish conquerors came into Mexico in the 1400s.
Wow.
We're talking about centuries. They brought
Right.
grapes, they brought wine, and I was like, oh my God, like how no one is talking about it, how we
Yes.
do not know, like a lot of Mexicans, they don't even know about this. I mean, most of the people know, but still there's a lot of a great part of the population that they do not know this part of the history. And I'm like, this should be on the books, right? Like this should be
Yes.
on the history books, right? Like we should
Yes.
know about this. Why we do not know?
Yes.
So I was like
I always
looking.
think wine maybe like California or maybe France, but it's interesting that Mexico has that history. And
Exactly, exactly. It's equally important, equally fascinating. As I start investigating, I discovered so many, cool facts. Um, how the Mexican wines, like they were so good that the Spanish people, they say, and it's kind of like a myth that I include in my book, that they say that the Spanish people got jealous because of our wine was so good, and they were like angry, and they started like to get
um,
rid of some of the vines because the grapes were growing beautifully. That's what they say. It's a myth. It can be true, it can be false, but if there's if there's in
but
Mexico
it
say
makes sense because I think wine from Mexico, it makes sense. And then imagine South America, so that's great.
exactly. So it's a beautiful history. And as you can see, I'm very passionate. My face and my expression can say it all. I am very passionate about sharing the story and kind of like spreading this beautiful history that we have. I feel that this has to be in all the books and all the histories, and I want to
Yes.
think to myself that I am contributing something with this book
And,
that I
and
wrote.
with that said, can you give me a little bit more information on the evolution of the Mexican wine industry and
Yes,
how
of
has it
course.
changed over the years?
Yes, of course. So, Mexican wine industry, you are touching a very important thing and concept here that it's kind of like crucial. Even though Mexico has been doing wines for centuries, the Mexican wine industry is relatively new. And with that, I
Mm,
mean for the past 30 years since the 1970s. I feel like people, winemakers, and houses that been doing wine for some time, they were reflecting and they were like, okay, we need to focus on quality instead of quantity. And since then, they rejoined one of the largest organizations on international wines is the OIV, Organization of International Vines, and it's kind of like a regulator. And they rejoined it in 2016, and since then
oh,
they have been doing great strides into really showcasing what Mexican wine can do and the quantity
mm,
that we can offer. So for this past 30 years, the Mexican wine industry is really striving into showcasing that quality over quantity. So 30 years is relatively new compared to
wow.
other wine industries around the world.
Interesting. That's a really good information. I'm glad you are writing a book about this. Very important, I think. Especially wine from Mexico. I think I can't believe it's only 30 years. It's new, but it's been there.
Yeah,
But
it's been there. It's been there for
yeah,
centuries, but the wine industry is really, you know, um, changing. And I feel like one of the critics more important in the world, Jancis Robinson, she has been studying Mexican wines for a couple of years already, and she say that by 2017, people were going to know more about Mexican wines, and we are 4 years before that. It's the 2023 right now, and I feel that we are right in on track. And what am I so brave to say that? This January, the Mexican president declared the first ever Mexican Wine Day as a holiday in Mexico, and that was
why is
huge.
that?
October
What?
7th.
Oh,
October
that's
7th
great.
is coming. Yeah.
Also,
So it's really seeing how things are happening, how the government is finally realizing that needs to support this industry um, in within Mexico and abroad. I feel like as an immigrant and as a part of like a large community of wine lovers that are looking for reconnecting with their roots, I feel like Mexican wines has a great future as an industry, and really as a great quality wine. It's a great quality
Great insight.
wine. Yes.
It's great insight. Um, Mexico has a diverse wine regions, as you're mentioning. Could you highlight some of the key wine producing regions in Mexico and what makes each unique in terms of uh, terrier and great varieties?
Yes, well,
Priorities.
of course that's a lot of information that is in the book, so I'll definitely
Okay.
recommend you to get it.
So
I mean,
it's different regions.
Edna and Cynthia can say a little bit about it. I really share like the regions, and that's Mexican wine regions are growing. And what I mean by that, I mean, we all know about Valle de Guadalupe. Valle de Guadalupe is where everything started in the 1970s, kind of like the industry really consolidating. So you have to have wine from Valle de Guadalupe. That's a must. And if you, one of the sommeliers I interview in the book, she say like Mexican Nebbiolo, you have to have it. Like you have to try it, right? Like if you
Yes.
want to get into Mexican wines, you have to have the Mexican Nebbiolo from Valle de Guadalupe. You have to have.
Is it the
And then
same? Do you go the same like red, pink? Is it the same or is there
yeah,
more
it's the
of a
same. It's the
sour,
red,
sweet?
red and whites, of course, and then we have like the styles, like medium, bold. It's the same. I think it's the same classification for like in terms of style.
Okay.
However, in Mexico, some things are happening. Um, Kind of like in France or Italy, they have like more structure around the type of blends that you can have, or like a wine that has to be called from certain region. In Mexico is still very new, and there's a lot of experimentation. A lot of winemakers are doing their own blends. So I think that's kind of like what is special and unique
Mm,
about Mexico right now. We may see more
mm,
regulation in the future, but I don't think for the time being we're gonna see it. However, the Mexican Wine Council are doing some regulations around wines from certain areas. So that's great. Like for example, like wine from Valle de Guadalupe, you can only call a wine from Valle de Guadalupe if the grapes are
oh,
grown there or something like that.
okay.
But yes,
I'm going to move to the next question. For readers who may not be familiar with Mexican wines, what are some standout Mexican wines? Oh, I'm sorry. I already asked that. What are the challenges and opportunities facing the Mexican wine industry today, both domestically and international stage?
well, that information is also in the book. But yeah, yes, I'm
So
not kidding.
we have to read the
Yes, you
book.
have to read it. Yeah, definitely you have to read it. I feel like,
This is
I mean,
great.
I was speaking yesterday with Anna about this, and I think that she made me realize something that I often do, but like you don't realize until someone else tell you, right? So I am studying about wine. I'm about to become a sommelier. I need to take one more test. But I
Okay.
really like not everyone is a sommelier, right? Not everyone needs to know like the technical, very hard data. Like I really like to spread the world of wine and Mexican wines to everyone that really wants to know in plain language. So I feel like that something very particular about the book is that I really try to speak to consumers that just want to get to know wine and get to know Mexican wines and have a good choice, somewhere to go where like some I'm not snob. I'm against that snobbery around wine. So I try to be very, you know, friendly when I speak about Mexican wine. Maybe Edna can elaborate more about what we spoke yesterday.
Sure, please, and join us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I was telling Martha yesterday that I think when I read the book, like I'm PR, okay? And I love wine also. And I've been working with Martha since what, like
For
4
4 years,
years?
yes, yes.
So I've learned a lot with her, a lot. But still, I'm not a
Yes.
sommelier, I'm not a professional in the wine industry. And when I read the book, I thought it was really like a friendly reading. Like it was
Okay.
easy for me to understand, and because she's telling about her story, about her background, and how she came with the wine industry since she was a kid. And what I mean,
Mm.
she wasn't like drinking, right? But still, like she came to like to know the wine industry and the wine
Yes.
in Mexico. So and she tells about her story and why she likes it, and she like gets you to a point. It's like a story, okay? She gets you to the point where she started, and then
Okay.
why she's like talking about Mexican wines, like she already told you. And I think
I love
it's
that.
it's awesome for people like me who are not in the industry but still likes it and still like wants to know more, because like Martha said, it's not snob. And because sometimes in this industry you came with people like or with readings or stuff, like it's kind of like snobby or different.
Hmm.
You don't understand that. And this is like a
Yes.
friendly reading, and I really liked it. And I think for people in the States and people in Mexico, it's awesome to have this kind of books, that it's and it's an
Yes.
easy reading. It's very informative, and I was telling Martha this yesterday. We have to tell this to people, because
Yes.
people don't know, and because you are used to have another kind of books in the wine industry, and this is different. Even though it's really informative and it tells you the story and everything, it's different. It's from her. Like it's like I was reading the book and I was imagining Martha talking. You know, because I know her, but that's awesome.
Yes.
It's kind
I
of
think it's awesome. I think it's awesome. I come from my grandpa used to have in Ecuador. It was called. It's like a bar. So he will have a lot of the liquors that they were produced. Like I remember going with my grandpa somewhere. So similar, kind of you're like around alcohol, but you're a kid. So he
Mhm.
will go to this place where they will make the liquor, like
Mhm.
the hard liquor. And I remember him mentioning, the ingredients and like what did you use and all this stuff. And I love finding out. I'm not an expert, but I know that I love the tactics of it. So
Mhm.
a book like this, I would love to read and know more about it, because you kind of grow up in this industry. So like I love tasting different drinks, just because of that, where I come from, with the
Mhm.
grandpa having a liquor store.
Mhm.
So I'm glad I can relate, because sometimes I felt like I was by myself. So
yeah.
I think it's great, and I think the input that you're saying, I can relate. And so now I'm sure there's tons of people that want to know more about Mexican wines, and and maybe know the places even when they go to Mexico and try them out.
Exactly.
And so, is there wine Mexico available in the United States
Yes, of
that
course.
that you can refer? Do you have?
Yes, actually, my book, Sandra, is kind of like mainly for people in the US. So the wines that I recommend, it's for um, they are available in the US. Of course, they are all available in Mexico and they can get it. I
Okay.
mean, if someone from Mexico reads the book, they can easily get that wine. But what I'm
Mm,
trying to do is to recommend the ones that are available in the US and what you can get here easily, because it's challenging. The distribution routes, the importers, they still
mm,
facing many challenges for Mexican wines to get distributed in the US. So you may not find it
mm,
everywhere, but you can find it. So that's why I focus on the ones that are here, so you can look for it. I'm sure that if you go to Google and you look for the wine that I'm recommending you in the book, you're gonna find a store that is gonna deliver to you, or either it's in a local restaurant or it's in a local store. So that's what I'm
mm.
trying to promote.
Uh,
Yes.
I have another question. In your book, you mentioned falling in love with the Mexican wines. Could you share some personal anecdotes or experience that have deepened your appreciation for the Mexican wine?
Yes. So I mentioned briefly in the beginning that when I was in Spain, I remember that I have visited when I was 15 years Casa Madero. But then, like, kind of like when we were traveling with my family and we were like traveling from my parents' hometown into the town where I was living, into the city where I was living. So in between Torreon, Coahuila and Monterrey, Mexico, there's Paras. And we were like, when you're traveling and you're like a teenager, you are like in pajamas and it's like, oh yes, like following your parents' sayings. And we were like,
Yes.
I have a sister and a brother, and we were like, okay, that whatever, we do whatever you say, but like not in the best mood and in pajamas. And then we visited Casa Madero, but it was kind of like, oh, like it felt like, I don't know, like a special moment that I didn't understand at the time until later, that I was like, oh my God, that I visited that place when I was a teenager. And like I remember vividly everything, every little moment, despite that I didn't try the wine, visiting like an old hacienda and
Mm.
all the places where they were doing wine and the vines and everything, and the weather, also the weather. I
Wow.
remember it was like a chilly day, kind of like typical of like places that have high altitude where wines grow very good. So I remember
Oh,
all those details, and I was like I it was a special moment.
yes.
So that was something very special that I didn't value. um so my kind
But
of
it
like
stick
my
with you.
stick with me, yeah. So my
Stick with you.
advice,
It's amazing.
my advice, or like something that I would like to share, and I often do with my kids, is like we go to wineries or we go to vineyards, and my kid is learning to love grapes and grape growing. Maybe it doesn't stick to him right now, but I am hoping that he's gonna have a good memory of that, and it's gonna remember that wine is meant to enjoy with people, and it's just not just about the wine. It's about like growing grapes and the history behind it. So
Mm.
all those memories can
Memories.
help you, yes, can help you later in life. Expose your kids to different things, to the behind the scenes of the winemaking or wine history. It's very, very important.
That's great. So, wine can be a part of a moment, a part of a memory, a part of it's more than wine. It's
Yes,
part of
no,
a
definitely.
friendship, a conversation, a meal with the
Exactly.
family.
Exactly. And I think Cynthia can
I
agree
love
with
that.
me on that. We have experienced sometimes wines together, and it's like we love
Mm.
the wines and we make great moments, and then it's like we taste it again, and it's like it doesn't taste the same, but it was not. It was not the wine. It was kind of like the moment and the atmosphere, and everyone was joyful.
I love that.
Yes, yes.
Can you
So
share? I'm sorry. Can you share, Cynthia, some of the conversations and memories?
Absolutely. So I have a little book,
Share.
a little journal here. So when I'm with Martha, I am frantically like taking notes, and she'll mention, oh, this wine tastes like this, but no, it's kind of like this. But one of the first things when I first met Martha was talking about, she said, oh, Cynthia, I'm so glad you're trying wine. Have you tried any Mexican wine? And I was like, well, I'm in Texas and I can go to my fabulous HEB grocery store and find Casa Madero. And so we just dived in and started talking about that. We get a few of their wines here. They're very good. Martha mentioned a couple more of their higher end wines that I am still seeking out, and talking to people and, encouraging those restaurants and those businesses. Hey, I like this, but can you get me a little bit more? Or I went in with Martha's book and said, oh, hey, do you know this producer? Can you bring me something from here? Or can you do this?
Oh,
And it's those moments and those connections that you're making. When I was reading Martha's book about the Casa Madero visit, I could so so relate as a child, with hair out to here, and you're all like, we're going to stop where? And then when I was reading about it, it's almost like a spiritual event, Martha. It was so special at the time. And yes, it was
Yes.
probably just like, okay, my parents are taking me here. And I'm like, guys, you don't know how special, but you have that picture. And that's such a memory that it gives you. But when we're drinking wine, I write my notes and I'm thinking, man, this is so good. Martha loves to talk about pairings that go with the wines. And we know our
Mm.
Mexican food, and it's fabulous. And when you compare it with wine from that region, it's even more special with the
I
people.
wanted to know that. If what about the food? The Mexican wine, and then do you pair it with certain foods?
Absolutely. They what does Martha say? What grows together goes together. Yes.
Oh, that's great.
It's Martha who helps us. I have a daughter who's vegetarian, so Martha does help me bring some of those sauces and those flavors with the foods. And
Mm.
it's just been an incredible journey that I have been blessed to learn from Martha. She really is, the epitome and the biggest supporter of Mexican wine that I know. And yeah, it's just been an incredible journey to learn and to grow, with Martha. So yes, thank you, Martha.
I'm
When,
I'm learning so much. I'm, I'm
when,
learning so much.
when Martha had asked me about if I would like to read a draft of the book, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, of course I would. And it was like an hour later, she had emailed it to me. And I remember thinking, okay, this is not the time to read it. I need to calm down. I need to put my notes aside. And, I wanted to really just take it all in. So I did take a moment and paused. I went to go light a candle. I just went to go calm
Oh,
down and get into that space because I knew I was reading something very personal. Edna, you mentioned about hearing Martha's voice. Absolutely. And yes, absolutely. And I felt like it was something very personal, like a journal, just a recap of places that she had been. And I remember thinking about all of the growers, the winemakers, the time that it took to put together the book, to do all of the research, because everything is vetted. It was
yeah.
just a labor, I'm sure, Martha, a labor of love, because it is just an outstanding piece of history. It really is. And it will stand
Yes.
on its own well into the years to come, and a reference for not just us, but our next generations. I've already gifted it to my children. My nieces are next because I know they know, oh yeah, their Thea does wine. So I'm super excited about just being able to share your story, Martha, because it's definitely worth sharing. So
Oh,
thank you.
Yes. Yes. It,
thank you.
and definitely needs to be in a book, and I love the fact that you had the courage, and like you said, for future generations. I believe in putting things in history, because I would like one day someone to go to a library and say, this is where I come from, and this is the story of like you said, the memories and the backgrounds and all that. So I love that, and thank you. Let me. So with wine tourism growing trend, are there any Mexican wineries or wine related experiences you recommend to travelers instead of interested in exploring Mexican wine country? I know you already mentioned this. Um, is there any exploring Mexican wine country? Any places?
Yes, of course, Sandra. Of course, Valle de Guadalupe is already kind of like the tourism area to go when you think about wine tourism in Mexico. However, let me tell you, and this is a challenge, and I think many of the states and the government officials, that is very important, the government officials are finally realizing that we have a great opportunity. Mexico is a great tourist destination already for our beaches and historical places. However, wine tourism in Mexico is going to grow exponentially
Mm,
in the next couple of years, not just for Valle, also for Guanajuato. Guanajuato and Coahuila, it's kind of like I feel that they are going to be great tourism destinations, wine tourism destinations. Guanajuato is really investing in creating route, they are calling the wine route of the Valle de la Independencia, because there is where all
Mm.
the independence, Mexican independence is starting. So they are really digging into that rich history that we have, because some of the independence people, like from centuries ago, they were like hiding vines, because what I was telling you, the Spanish people were like trying to get rid of it. So they are trying to get
Mm.
that part of the history merged with like visiting wineries, and giving that rich information in a very touristic way, in that area in Guanajuato. So Guanajuato is your next wine region to visit, and then Coahuila. Even though the wine, the birthplace of the Americas for the wine was there, I feel like finally they are realizing the capacity that they have to attract tourism people and visit all the different wineries. There's particularly one winery that is really making an investment in creating kind of like, I'll not say like a hotel, but maybe um like a
A
place where
resort.
people can stay, yeah. So it's really great how
It's
Valle
up
de
and
Parras.
coming.
Yes,
So it's
Valle
up
de
and
Parras.
coming. It's growing.
Exactly, Valle de Parras is gonna grow. And magic towns in Mexico, we have the pueblos mágicos, the magic towns, that we call, and they are very, rich in food, the restaurants, and then bringing the wine, and then the wine
Mm.
route is really, really, really beautiful. My sister got married in one of the magical towns in Valle de Parras, and then having all these like cultural places and
Oh.
restaurants, and
Mm.
the wineries. It was really, really a great experience. So that's something that you have to look into. Valle de Parras and Valle de la Independencia, Valle de Parras in Coahuila, and Valle de la Independencia in
Yes, yeah.
Guanajuato. I think is the next wine tourism booming
It's a it's
region.
a
Yes,
it's a to do. It's a bucket list. It's a bucket
yes,
list to do.
yes.
Um, your book likely includes recommendations, tasting notes. Could you share some of your favorite Mexican wines and what makes them stand out for you?
Yes, of course. Well, there in my book, I recommended 10 Mexican wine styles. And within the 10 Mexican wine styles, I recommended two or three wines for each style. I feel that my favorite Mexican wine is always changing. Why? Because I have always the great opportunity to taste more wine, more Mexican wines.
Mm.
However, I really, really love sparkling. I feel that the bubbly, it just make a special moment, and it can pair with anything. A bubbly. So
There's
right now,
sparkling
the
wine. I thought
sparkling
that was
wine.
champagne. No,
No,
this is sparkling wine.
it's a sparkling wine. Champagne is a sparkling wine from France, but the sparkling wine is a
Mm.
style. For to be champagne, it has to
Oh.
be made in France. So
Oh,
yes, the sparkling
I didn't
wine
know
from
that.
yes, the sparkling wine from Mexico, it has a very particular character, and I feel that right now is one of my top favorites. I wish that everyone can have Mexican sparkling wine. It's made in Querétaro, so I definitely recommend to be on the look for it. In
And you
in
will
the
pair it with?
I'll pair it with anything, as I say, by
Oh.
itself, or like with a hamburger, or like maybe with some shrimp tacos, the tacos ensenada, something
Mm.
like that, or just with like some chips.
I'm getting hungry.
Seriously, yeah, this Mexican sparkling wine from Freixenet in the US, we know it as El Bajío Sparkling. It's a collaboration with one of the importers, and that's a
Mm.
recommendation that I have in the book. It's really one of my favorite. I'm always on the look for it, and I
Mm.
really I really like it. Plus, it brings great memories from my time there. So it's kind
Mm.
of like I love
Yes.
because of the memories, and I love because of the style and the flavors, and that compares with anything.
Yes, I can just imagine it. When you're talking about it, I can feel the experience and I can feel the moment, And I think your friend can relate to that. Is that a wine that you have shared with them, or do you guys share a specific wine, or do you guys have a favorite wine as friends, or do you explore more?
I feel like we're always exploring different wines, especially with the classes that we have. And I always encourage my friends and, the members of Latinas Wine Club or anyone following me on social media to definitely go out of your comfort zone. I mean, I know that you're going to stick to the one that you
Mm,
like the more, but in order to really learn about wine, you really need to get out of your comfort zone and try something new. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but my bet is that if you keep trying, you're gonna find something that you're gonna love.
mm. And do you lose the taste of the wine? This is just my personal question. Do you if you try one and then one another one after, do you forget the taste of one, or is it something you can?
Yeah, I don't think you forget the taste of
Because I'm thinking of
wine.
perfume. When you're like smell a perfume and then you smell another one, you get confused.
Yeah.
Does that happen
Um,
with
I
wine?
don't think so.
No.
What do you think, Cynthia? Or for me, it doesn't happen. Like as you taste more, it's kind of like on the contrary. You taste more, you
Oh.
remember more the flavors of certain wine. I feel that's my experience.
Oh, that's great. I was comparing it with perfume, and
Yeah.
I'm like, sometimes
Well,
when you taste, or you smell them, then you forget what the
Well, for
first one
wine,
was.
for wine, remember that you have to use all your senses, not just the smell. Is the taste, is the smell, is the view, you know. So it's more senses.
Mm.
Yes.
And
That's a great tip.
Sandra, I have to say, Martha never misses an opportunity to share information. It's like you're her good friend and she wants you to know champagne comes from France and about the senses, using all of those things and sharing that information. So, Martha, I appreciate that you never miss an opportunity to share. And it's
Yes.
not correcting us or saying, yes, this is right, but it's just sharing that information and coming
Yes.
together. You feel like a best friend or a comadre or your prima, just something to come together. She's like, oh yeah, that's good, but da 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 da. And I do appreciate and making it so approachable. When you said perfume, I thought, oh yeah, you can get consumed or overwhelmed by the perfume, but yeah, we smell, but oh yeah, we taste, we're looking. Martha
Yes.
has we have a little system of how we taste the wine, and yeah, even before you get it to try it in your mouth, we've already gotten some of those flavors on our nose. We've had a chance to see it. And so, yeah, I
Mm.
really appreciate Martha like a good friend, a big sister, someone who's going to help to guide us. Martha has
Yes.
a saying in Spanish, and I really could relate to it. It's vino para todos. And, I really was thinking about it. And when I was saying todos, I thought, oh, yeah. I said, well, yeah, I'm here in Texas. We say y'all. It's y'all, everyone. And todos is y'all. It's everyone. So I really do
Yes.
appreciate that Martha loves to share and make wine available and approachable to everyone.
Yes, I love that. I love that. I learned so much. I love so much, and I'm a fan. Again, because of my grandpa, but I never saw it in this way, and I learned so much. And so I appreciate all the information that Martha has. I didn't know the five senses, and enjoying it with family and friends and the memories. So I think it's definitely. I'm eager to read your book and try the wines that you're recommending. Like, I can't wait. I want to have that book already because it's about to be the weekend too. So I think it's a good opportunity. Uh, what advice would you give to someone who is just beginning to explore Mexican wines and wants to develop a deeper appreciation for them, like myself, because I'm eager to explore.
Well, of course, read my book, but definitely it's the guide to fall in love with wines of Mexico, and I think that it's kind of like a very special gift. As Edna mentioned, is my personal story, but that is not like I'm telling or I'm sharing my story so you can relate and you can also fall in love with the wines of Mexico truly. But besides that, is really try Mexican wine. There's no better way to learn about wines of Mexico or any other wine from the world than rather trying it. Really, the book is gonna help you a lot, but the next step into getting into Mexican wines is trying Mexican wines. Like, definitely look for it, try it, experience. If you don't like one, try another one. And kind of like one of the close remarks of the book is like, try Mexican wine with your heart like really open, like open your heart into tasting different flavors, different stories, different experiences.
I love
And
that.
if you set your mind, and as
Hmm.
Cynthia, I love that Cynthia mentioned that, like, set your mind, set your moment to try it. And once you experience wine like that, it will change your experience because it's not the same. Of course, sometimes we are with family and friends and it's kind of like cheers and you enjoy, right? But I feel that the most cathartic moment for any wine lover or Mexican wine lover is when you set yourself and you kind of like pause and you are in a very like mindful state and you really taste with all your
Hmm.
senses. It's like it's a magical experience, seriously.
Yes. And it sounds like a mindful, you're learning even mindfulness
Exactly.
skills.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
it's, go ahead,
And
Anna.
you know what? Mexico, we have like like a really rich culture, and I think it's the same in the wines of Mexico. Like you can taste the culture from here, from Mexico. So
Mm,
it's different. It really is. It's a whole
yeah.
experience.
Yes, I'm learning so much, and practicing mindfulness with wine doesn't sound that bad. It sounds
Yes.
good. Um, Lastly, what message or impression would you like readers to take away from your book, and how do you hope it will influence their perception of Mexican wines?
Well, of course, I hope that they fall in love with wines of Mexico. At least a little bit of what I'm already are in love with. But I feel that what I really want to put into the world with the book is the existence of Mexican wines. Like they are there. They're an option for you to try and to fall in love. As Edna already mentioned, Mexican wine culture, it's already immersed in the States so much. I mean,
Yes.
especially particularly I can see it very often in New York. Like before we
Mm,
used to have hot dogs in every street, right? Like a hot
yes.
dog cart street food. Right now we have tacos everywhere. And I hope,
Mhm.
I wish, I dream that we're gonna have Mexican wine available in every liquor store in the city and in the States. So it's my dream. It may be crazy or not, but I see it happening in a couple of years. And I hope that my book helps a little bit to spread the word and the awareness of Mexican
Yay. Congratulations. I know it's a bestseller now.
wines.
Um, would you want to share your social media?
Yes, of
Where can we
course.
find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Wine Diva. And for specifically for the wines of Mexico, I'm having this Instagram just about wines of Mexico, and it's at wines of MX. So you can follow me there, and I'm gonna be posting more things about the book and infographics and all that, and also in Wine Diva. But definitely follow me there. And my website winediva.com and winesofmx.org.
Yay. Any last words from Cindy, Edna, for your friend?
Well, we're just like very happy to be part. Like I'm very happy to be part of Martha's journey in this whole thing that she's doing. I think she's an innovator and she's doing things differently. And I'm so happy as Mexican. Also, I'm so happy that she's putting us out there, like for all the people to know.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I'm very grateful to be part of this.
Great.
Thank you, Edna. That was really awesome. And I just want to make sure everyone knows this is the beautiful book. It's beautifully written, illustrated. I loved the maps, I loved the pictures. Um, it's just gorgeous. And so I really did want to encourage everyone to go to Amazon, go find your book, read all about Martha, her journey. It's just such a fabulous, Martha, you are opening doors for so many Latinas in wine. So thank you so much. Thank you for the book. I know it's a labor, but thank you for taking those steps and those strides to come out with this fabulous book. And we are all ready to fall in love with the wines of Mexico.
Congratulations, Martha. I know today is your lunch, and I know it's already a bestseller. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be doing this interview for you. I have learned so much. You have inspired me. I can just see how this book is going to change and add on to the Hispanic history here in the United States. And I love the fact that you have great friends and they're here to support you. And I wish you much success. And I know this is one for the histories. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I hope that everybody joins your Instagram and finds your book. It sounds
Thank
great.
you very much, Sandra and Edna and Cynthia, for making this day so special. I appreciate your words and your support.
Of course.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
And nice to meet you.
Bye now.
Bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye.